Hello and welcome to a new advanced listening practice lesson. I'm Drew Badger, the world's #1 English fluency guide and the co-founder of EnglishAnyone.com, and it is a pleasure to welcome you back if you've been with us for a while, and hello if you're new. For the new people, I highly recommend you watch some of our previous videos first. We have lots of things that are focused on basic grammar or learning idioms, things like that. And the reason I recommend you watch those lessons first is because in these lessons, in the advanced listening practice, I will be speaking at native or faster than native speed. So right now I'm making an effort to pronounce things, and if you're watching my videos and you say, hey, why can I understand this guy, but I can't understand people talking in movies and TV shows, and it's because of the way I speak. This is my teaching voice, so I make it a bit easier for people to understand me, so that's why you really need to go back, and I highly recommend, again, going back to watch those videos where I'm speaking a bit more slowly and clearly as I'm speaking here, so that you can enjoy these kind of episodes where I'm speaking much faster and you can start learning more things and developing your listening that way. Well, that said, let's get on with the lesson. Well, today I was going to talk about, this is going to be a stream of consciousness kind of video. And stream of consciousness just means you're thinking about something. I don't have a really good plan about what I want to talk about today. I was thinking more I would just turn on the camera and just talk about some things I've been thinking about recently, and I figured why not? So I'm going to do that because I've got, some things to say that are, obviously important. Hopefully they should be important to you, but they're important to me as well, and, that's why I'm here. So hopefully sharing some valuable things I've learned from business or fluency, other things like that, and hopefully you can benefit from that. So what I want to talk about today is going from good to great. Good to great. So kind of in my definition, somebody that would be good at somebody or good at something, it doesn't matter if you're able to speak well or, you're good at business or whatever that thing happens to be, you're pretty good at that thing. To be good, there's, I know it sounds weird to say that, but there's nothing bad about being good at something. It's kind of like average and then a little bit better than that. And it's a perfectly reasonable, thing to shoot for, and to shoot for something means to aim at something. So if that's your goal, to be good, I want to be a good speaker, I want to have a good business, or, whatever that thing happens to be. But in my case, I want to be great. Like whatever it is I'm going to do, and you obviously can't be great at a lot of different things. I can't be a great piano player and a great basketball player and great at all these things. I mean, like you could be, pretty good or maybe great at one or two things, but really mastery requires focus. And so if you want to learn how to do something really well, then you really got to make an effort to do that thing. And so in the case of business, like learning how to do this, like for me, business and fluency are intertwined. They're interconnected, because the better I get at business, the more people I'm able to help through the lessons and the things I do. So actually, like my own evolution of learning about business and learning how to do business better, the idea of how do you market, how do you connect with people, how do you convince people to try what you're offering, that kind of thing. So all these things, that I've been thinking about, working on these things are what's helped me develop a much better system such that I can help more people learn. Because without the business skills, it doesn't really matter how great my techniques are as far as learning goes. And as far as, this is another great phrase, to be as far as just means about or concerning. This is another English fluency bit. So as far as learning goes, I could have fantastic lessons, but if I don't actually know how to, get people to follow me or get people to try what I do or, anything like that related to business, then none of it's going to matter. So a lot of people deal with that problem where they're maybe really good at producing something, but they don't have the business side. So they're wondering like, well, my product is great, or I've got this great thing that I can offer people, but nobody's trying it, or nobody's, doing these other things or whatever. And that's why I always recommend, no matter what you're getting into, like learn about, business and sales and marketing. And it's really just learning about people. I wouldn't even say I'm really learning about business. I'm just more like studying people and trying to understand people. And I'm always thinking about that every day, trying to figure out, how I can help people better. And the better way for me to do that is to understand people. And so, now we're here, and like I'm creating these videos on YouTube and courses and all kinds of things like that, while using what I understand about people to help people better themselves and, myself in the process. So all these things are working together, but in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking about that difference between good or great. Now, what I'll continue with is talking a little bit more specifically about business. So if it's related to fluency, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but this right now is a bit more kind of business focused, I suppose. So the idea of going from good to great, like having a company that does well, but having a company that's remembered, like, many years even after, like, if the founder dies or something, or even to have a company that like continues many years after, or many generations after the founder dies. You could have some companies that are like 500 years old or older than that, something like that. These are great companies, and again, I'm not talking about like if the business is doing well for the environment and the community and all these other things. I'm just really talking about the longevity and the name recognition of something like that. Now, what's interesting, when I, sort of began learning about business, I was doing everything the wrong way. When I talk about doing things the wrong way, I'm kind of thinking about myself and how I can benefit by doing something. And the reason this is the wrong way of thinking is, well, number one, it doesn't really work because you're talking to a market that wants a result for themselves, obviously. So let's say you're selling something, you're in sales, or whatever that happens to be, and you're thinking about something that how can I get a result for myself? The better thing to do is be like really listening to the people you're trying to solve a problem for. So listen to the market you're trying to serve, and then you will be benefited as a result after that. So you come second, and the market comes first. And if you think about it the opposite way, then you're never going to get anything, because people are always like looking for, somebody else, something like that to, I guess on average, to try to figure out something that can benefit themselves. But if you're really thinking about serving the market, and that's exactly what I'd like to do, that's, it's like my whole mission, to be able to help people and to help the world become, confident speakers. So anybody that wants to will have the opportunity to do so. So that's what I'm building right now. Anyway, when I started learning about business, like I was just kind of doing it on my own. I thought, hey, I'm smart. I could figure things out. And of course I did it badly, trying to, understand things. Sometimes I'm lucky if I want to figure something out. I have maybe like a lot of pride or something, I suppose, where I'm trying to figure something out on my own. Maybe you have that same problem if you're, like a smart person that wants to, without having a teacher tell you how to do something. It's kind of like when you buy something and you get the instructions with it, but you're like, fuck the instructions. I'm just going to do this thing myself. Pardon the cursing over here. But anyway, so in thinking about good to great, instead of me listening to other people that have already done what I want to do, I decided, okay, I'm going to do it my own way. And then, of course, I failed at that thing. So failed at starting to, build a business and marketing and all that stuff. And what's interesting is that when I start following people, there's kind of this idea that people have of, and this is going to be kind of like a tricky idea. So hopefully I explain it properly or well enough. But anyway, so when people are talking about following someone else for advice, if you're in a market and you're trying to learn advice from other people that have already succeeded at what you're doing, so this is called modeling. Excuse me again. If you're modeling, which you should be, you have to think about the two different kinds of kind of systems or relationships in which modeling happens, and how like the kind of modeling is important depending on what it is you want to do. Now, I'm going to kind of go back and explain all this, but let's look at two different things. So there's the modeling of people doing successful business, and then there's the modeling of people doing, something like fluency. Now, like one person could be trying to teach you how to become a more fluent speaker, or how to improve at a sport, or, do something else like that. And then business, like the ultimate outcome of that is you're going into a market and you will be like encountering competition for whatever that thing is. So I'm not the only person that helps people learn online. There are lots of different people that do that. And I think that's great. There are lots of different opportunities for people to learn, different voices, different teachers, that kind of thing. But again, I have a particular way of doing it. And so that's my thing. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But what I want you to understand is this idea of modeling. Like what I didn't understand when I was first learning about business for modeling is that you don't actually want to like model what the people leading in your area or other things like that are doing. You want to model their ideas and the foundation of their thinking. But with something like fluency, what you actually want to do is like really copy what those people are doing. So we got two different modeling systems here, and that's kind of the theme of this video. We're talking about two different ways of modeling something. One is modeling the foundation of the way people are thinking, and the other is modeling the actual, like, I did this and you need to do that and that kind of thing. And the reason that we have two different modeling systems is because the one that's about fluency doesn't end with any kind of competition. I mean, maybe you get into competition with people in like a job market, like two different people, both are really good English speakers and they're both trying to get a job with the same company. But the real success of the actual fluency doesn't depend on other people. But in the case of business, if you model somebody and then try to go into business and then you're not actually successful at that thing, there's real competition there that determines whether or not you're successful at that thing. So again, one, like the regular modeling, you're modeling two different things. You're trying to model the success, and you should model success in both of these. But in the business sense, you should be modeling the foundation, the principles of the idea, and with something like fluency or learning a sport or an instrument where the competition doesn't affect whether or not you're successful, because you learn how to play the piano, you learn how to do something. It's something for you, as opposed to business where it's something that you're connecting with other people, and that connection with other people determines how well that is. Now, I don't know if you've considered this idea before. It's just been something I've been thinking about lately because other people ask for my advice about business, and I watch what other teachers do, on YouTube or just other places around, just to see what other people are up to, because I think it's fascinating how people try different things and we form different ideas. But just to get kind of to the point of this video, thinking about that for business, when you're like, let's say I'm just going to talk to you or talk with you as if you're someone that's actually trying to learn about starting a business. It doesn't matter whether you are or not, because like the idea, the foundation of having like a business and thinking about marketing and all these things are applicable to you, whether you're starting a business or whether, you're just like an employee or you have your own company, or, it doesn't really matter. I mean, we're all learning how to connect with people, and that's all business is. It's an interpersonal relationship thing, and how we determine if you can, kind of motivate other people to do things. So whether you're working in a company and you're trying to convince other people at your work to do a certain plan or whatever that is, or if you're out trying to sell something, everybody is in that relationship with other people where we're trying to convince other people to do certain things. But again, fluency is something personal, or learning an instrument or learning a sport. It's something personal that you do for you, and it doesn't matter what other people do in that. So what a lot of people do is they actually try to follow, like, well, this guy made this website and this guy made, this advertisement and this other thing. And the reason it doesn't work, so a lot of people, they're kind of wondering like, but I did all the same things that guy did. And like that's happened to me before, where I start thinking like, okay, this business guy says you should be, doing this thing and that thing and that thing. And the reason it doesn't work is because of the mind, and how, like, I think I've talked about this in other videos before, but the way the mind works is that they're kind of like holes or spaces in the mind, or different categories for the way people think about things. And if I think about, I want to search for something on the internet, Google is the first thing that comes to mind. So businesses are always talking about having top of mind awareness in, the mind of the consumer. And this just means that when somebody thinks of something, they think of that company or that service. So maybe like in shoes, it's Nike. If you like Nike or whatever, maybe some people don't. It doesn't really matter. But the goal of a company is to be first in mind for when you're thinking of that thing. Now, I may not need to search for something immediately, but when the need arises to search for something, I'll be thinking of Google. I'll think like, okay, I'll just go to Google and search for something like that. Now the whole point of explaining this is that when you think about learning about something for business, the reason you shouldn't copy exactly what people do, especially if they're in the same market as you, is because like the person that you're copying has already gotten in that position in somebody's mind. So like when you're like, let's say I want to learn how to like, I don't know, be like a fitness trainer or something like that. So there's a lot of fitness people on YouTube, and I want to say, okay, like this guy does, these things and he makes these kind of videos. If I do the exact same thing as him, I will not achieve the same level of success he does, because he's already got that position in somebody else's mind. Again, this is that difference between these two kinds of modeling behavior. So if you model exactly what these people do, then you're not going to have the same level of success, because the people that are already in the market paying attention to those people are going to look at you as like a copycat or whatever. Copycat is somebody that's, literally copying something like that. So copying exactly what happens, and that's why that person can't necessarily be successful at that thing. So somebody else could try to make Google and say, well, hey, like Google has search, like I'll just make a search engine company too. And of course, nobody ends up using that search engine service, even if it like the actual product like works a little better or whatever. And the reason is because Google is top of mind for most people, especially in America, when people are thinking about searching for things. So when you're thinking about modeling, if you're thinking about it for business, like let's say you wanted to do what I want to do, like do not do exactly what I do. I'm going to do exactly what Drew does and do all these other things, because it's impossible for you to achieve the same level of success at my thing as I do. But if you can create a new category, and that's exactly why, like I thought about, I've talked about this before in like, I believe it was a business lesson I was talking about here on YouTube. But the reason that I'm an English fluency guide as opposed to a teacher is because it's a new category I can create and then actually do something different with it, so that I'm achieving like a higher level of success than, the average person that's just like, okay, I'm going to teach English online. I'm thinking, what are the steps really required? And I'm not just trying to think of like a marketing term like, hey, English fluency guide, that sounds really cool. It's more like, what am I actually doing, and what's a good way to explain that? And what I do, instead of just giving people lessons about things, is actually taking people through a whole system, because they really need to go from where they are to fluency in particular steps. So it's not about just giving words or phrases or vocabulary, whatever that thing is. What you have to do is actually guide people and say, whoa, like don't do that, but oh, do this thing over here in the same way a tour guide would. And so when I'm thinking about this idea, this is a lower level foundational idea about business. And so successful business people are using ideas like that, where they're thinking, okay, I'm not going to copy exactly what this person does that he got success with. I'm going to copy the fundamental ideas and the mindset that person had to achieve success. Now, obviously, this holds true in something like fluency, where like if you've got no confidence or other things like that, these are fundamental psychological ideas about fluency. If you don't have any of those, then it's really going to be difficult for you to, even learn words and start speaking with people. So of course, with something like fluency, you've got these same ideas as well, where the foundational ideas are also important. But the nice thing about getting fluent is that you can follow exactly what someone else did in order to speak. Because if they're learning this way and they took these steps and then they actually did that thing, it doesn't depend on any other people. So there's no other market that you have to worry about modeling. So hopefully this whole idea is maybe giving you some food for thought. Food for thought just means something to think about, where instead of thinking about like yes, you should be modeling people, whether it's learning business or whether it's learning a language or whatever, like really understand the reasons why modeling works different ways for different things. So again, for business, I just wanted to drive this point home. To drive a point home means that I really want to make something clear, because it's a very important point. I want to drive it home. When you want to be successful at something that depends on other people, where, something like that would be business, then you want to follow the foundational principles and not like the higher level things of like this color button on this website or this like specific thing that person did. Follow like the basic foundational principles and start thinking about like, how can I position myself differently in the market? All these other things that are required, because all the people that think about the higher level things in business never succeed. It's only the people that are thinking about the foundational things and then do something different and unique that get noticed and then develop a business that succeeds. But the good news for you as a language learner is that you don't have to worry about any of that. So if you also have a business, maybe that's something to think about. But since this is primarily language learners that are watching this, I just wanted to give this example because, again, the language learning, which I still do, both for thinking about how to educate better as well as how to learn better for my own self, as I work to get fluent or speak more confidently in Japanese, these things are really interconnected. And so I learn a lot of lessons about business that are applicable, that can be applied to language learning. So when you're thinking about these things, like for language learning or for business, take the ideas of and try to like think about the bigger picture of things. You know, obviously, again, I mentioned the thinking about the what was that? Like the principles of how you become a good learner, and you know, those are like, you know, being able to take risks and going out and speaking with people, even if you might make a mistake, that kind of thing. These are foundational things before you even start studying the language. So the more confidence you have, the more likely it is that you will succeed and become a confident speaker. But the good news, again, I'll just say this one last time, is that you can follow exactly what people like me do. So whoever you end up learning with, whether you like learning with me or you've got other people, you know, each person maybe has a different sort of way that they like to learn, or a certain person that really is like more motivating than another person. That's perfectly fine. Learn with whomever you enjoy learning with. But think about that and remember that for this kind of learning, for language learning, you can model exactly what other people are doing. Hey, I went here and I did this and I did that other thing, and like I can do exactly that thing. And that's why I love teaching languages, because I can say, hey, do this, and anybody can go out and do that. So there's no real competition. Like I could have everybody in the world go out and speak and do the exact same thing that everybody else does, and everybody still wins. But it doesn't work that way in business. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. It's been a pleasure sitting here and, you know, just getting to talk with you a little bit. It's funny, I can sit in my room here and, you know, communicate with people all over the world. So do let me know what you think. Do like this video, share it with some other people who maybe you've got some friends that are interested in business or something. And if they're thinking like, they're like banging their head against a wall, wondering why something is working or not working, that's probably the reason. Anyway, I got an airplane coming, so I better shut this off, but I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Again, like, share, comment below, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. To continue learning, click on the link in this video to download Speak English Naturally, our free guide to speaking and sounding like a native English speaker. The guide reveals the 3 most important kinds of conversational English you must learn if you want to sound native, and will help you experience instant improvement in your fluency and speaking confidence. To download your free guide on a mobile device, click on the link in the upper right of this video. To download your free guide from a computer, click on the link in the lower right of this video. I look forward to seeing you in the guide.